Welcome to Empowered to Grow, the podcast. I am your host, Hanan Basha, the business doctor. Following our conversations with empowered women who woke up one day and consciously claimed, I am more than enough, I am worthy, I am empowered to grow. And along their empowering journey towards realizing their own potential and their quest for growth, they became a beacon of hope and guidance for others. May you also find your inner power to grow. Hello again, everyone, and welcome to our Unchartered discussion episode of Empowered to Grow. This is your host, Hanan Basha, and I'm still with the lovely Kelly Markey. Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Hannah.
Kelly is an author and a public speaker. And as we were talking in our last episode and even in between recordings, we were talking about discrimination. So Kelly, you were born and grew up in South Africa, and then you moved to New Zealand, and then now you're an immigrant in Australia. So you've relocated there, and this is where your life is. And you spoke in the first episode about the movement of Black Lives Matter. And I think with everything else that's happening in the world, discrimination, forms of racism, any type of you are less than me, attempts at kind of making people feel less than around the world have been coming more and more into the spotlight. They're being shone a light on, but more importantly, people are speaking up about them, and there are others who are actually doing something about it. Can you tell us a bit more about your experiences with discrimination?
Yeah, sure. So sadly, I guess when people talk about apartheid or discrimination, I think lots of people from the neck of wood that I come from naturally gravitate towards South Africa. I grew up in that apartheid regime, but because it was apartheid, we lived in segregated communities. So I went to an all-Indian school. We lived in an all-Indian community. And, if you went to the supermarket, that's the only demographic you saw. Same with schooling, the whole shebang. It was very rarely while I was growing up that we actually had that melting cosmopolitan pot. And moving overseas, I have to admit, this was like my first real experience to get into the real world where everyone, came in and basically was on a level field. So for the first time in my life, I got to actually experience discrimination, and I wouldn't want to say, racism, but it was definitely racism outside of South Africa, in New Zealand and Australia. And we think that, it's not part of it. Even when I wrote my book and I had to give a brief bio of who I am and what the book is, and people's jaw dropped and they were like, wow, in New Zealand and Australia. And I'm like, yeah, yes, it may rain in South Africa, but we were not exposed to it because we were in our own community. And sadly, it's still apparent. It's still apparent in corporate structures everywhere you go. And people have just learned to either just turn a blind eye or not care about it. So we need to address it. And, my book delves deeper into some of the situations that I've lived through. And I've talked about, the emotions that I felt at the time, but also the lessons that I got out of it. And I think people are connecting to the book because they can see how genuine and real the experience is, and they have lived through the same thing. So
what are a couple of lessons that you can share with us that you have come up with, or that you have learned through your experiences?
Yeah, look, when I was very young and in New Zealand, I was involved in a kind of, not really a car crash, but I was in a lane indicating to turn, and a motorbike was straddling the two lanes. So he wasn't there. And when I looked, he wasn't there. So I, proceeded to move my car, and he came racing down. And he didn't have insurance, so we had to go to court. So this is a classic example. And then he came to court with his father and his brother representing him. And then the judge was there, who was a male, and they were all, Westerners. So here I was, this person. I was called up to give, an account of what happened, drew on the whiteboard. And all the details were there. There was no ambiguity. But yet the judge couldn't make a decision. He had to adjourn it and said, okay, we'll get, more information. And also the motorbiker was actually claiming for damage of his leather outfit, his helmet, and having months off work. So he wanted to basically claim all of this for my insurance. And I was like, but that's not what happened. His things were not even damaged, none of his gear. And I was so upset, I walked away, and I genuinely thought that the judge would do the right thing, because he knew what had happened, and there was a witness. And the witness was in court as well, who, saw what happened, and the guy wasn't injured. And the next time we had to go to court, I wasn't available. I had to work, and I couldn't take another day off work. And the judge decided in favor of him. So basically he got a payout and all of that from my insurance. And I guess the lesson I got out of there is that no matter how authentic I am, no matter how honest I am, no matter what's on paper, no matter who the witness is, I'm never going to win because of my skin color. And they actually, when I was walking out of that court, I actually had my insurance as well. My insurance, who's supposed to represent me, was a Westerner. And he said to me, don't you know that motorbikes ride in between two lanes? And it was actually, at that time in New Zealand, illegal for motorbikes to straddle lanes. And I knew that. And so imagine my insurance company telling me that. So very early, I realized that this is a mountain that I cannot climb, or it's a losing battle. And it just went on. But I had to every day make peace. And then I had to just dig deep and say, you know what? Yeah, it's my insurance. He's supposed to be representing me. I just have to take it in my stride.
Yep. And, there are, as you said, there are many situations where I don't think we necessarily have to make peace with the status quo, but I think we have to find a way to live with it or change it. And we know that change does not happen overnight. We know that change takes possibly even generations to be effective. But as you said, there are opportunities, or there are instances where they show up and they rub us the wrong way on so many levels. But then there are others that we say, that's it, as you were sharing in the first episode, it's like, nope, that's it. This is where it stops. And this is where I draw the line and put the boundary for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay. So from your perspective, then the last thing I want to ask you about now, pouring it out all into a book. And now, as you said, the book was on the bestseller list on a number of categories within the first few hours of it being published. How has that experience been for you? And do you feel like this could be one of those opportunities where you could be creating the impact that you would like to fight discrimination with?
Absolutely. So it is changing mindsets already. I've started an international book tour. I've sold out in certain countries, and all of my books sold out. I had to get back orders, and it speaks to the heart. So people are reading it. People are reading it for the third and fourth time. It has 25 self-help tools as well. But I think it's the core message that's really making people stop and ponder. So just last week, I met a beautiful woman that purchased my book and the journal, and she looked at the sheer size of my book, and she goes, "Wow, this will take me a year to read." And a few days later, she messaged me and she said, "Wow, I cannot put this book down. I'm almost 3/4 into it, and
Wow.
I've learned so many things." She's like, "I've also made so much of notes. I've got so many pearls of wisdom that I want to work on myself." And she goes, "And I also want to purchase several other copies to give to other people." So that's just one classic example, but it's in every other country. I'm getting people that have never read for 30 years. I'm getting husbands that are stealing the books off the wives and reading it for the second or third time. I'm getting people that are purchasing it in bulk to give it out to schools, to prisons. It's been amazing.
That's an amazing experience. And I hope it continues to create that triple impact effect that you had, or the intention that you had for it when you sat and poured your heart out in 10 days over the computer.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Yeah, it is. It's having that effect. In fact, most of the readers read the book and they go, "Are you writing another one? So we so want to hear, more of what you have to say." So I guess 80% of my readers have contacted me and asked me to write another book, and I have written another book. So
wow, congratulations.
Yeah, so I'm sure we will chat in the future.
Yes. We'll get you back when you have your second book out.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your heart. And I wish that this impact continues for you, and you create those waves of people who wake up to themselves and to connecting with their true self as well, and realizing that life could mean a lot more for them too.
Absolutely. Yes, it's an awakening. That's exactly what we need.
Exactly. Thank you so much. And can't wait for everyone to see the episode and to share the message across. As always, I think we ended with this message, the first episode, but let's end it with it again. Live authentically, live with a lot of integrity, and don't shy away from showing up with the true you, because there are people who are waiting for you to show up, and there are people who will be connecting with you accordingly. So as always, wishing you love, abundance, and prosperity. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Grow podcast. For further engagement with a tribe of empowered women, join my Facebook group, Empowered to Grow, or visit my website, www.hananelbasha.com. I'll catch you on the next episode. And until then, know that empowered you empowers others. Love, abundance, and prosperity to you all.